last presenter, as I mentioned at the end, if you have questions for any of the other speakers, we'll do that as well after Bryan has a chance to present and answer questions. So I'm pleased to introduce Bryan Piaseczny, who will be talking about emergency management.
Yes, thank you, Dave. I was kind of hoping Tony would be here today because, well, I figured he'd give me a little meet and greet with everyone, but it's great to be here, and I thank everybody for coming. Great job to the first participants that presented. It was a very good presentations. I got a lot to kind of account to here, so this is fantastic. But basically, this presentation is all about how public safety coincides with emergency management as a whole. There's a lot of aspects to emergency management. We're aware, of course, of the fire, police, EMS system, all that, but there's a lot of different ways this can go. And being aware of it and being proactive within your own jurisdiction or the environment in which you live is very important. So, with that being said, you said left or right?
You have to test it.
Oh, there. Okay. Yep. So there's many ways this can coincide. Obviously, I know this is really, really wordy, and I tried to cut it down as much as I could, and so I could talk more. So basically, there's a lot of ways this can coincide. I'll go off of this. There's hazard preparedness within your communities, within your agencies, within your jurisdictions. There's different routes to this. There's federal management agencies, there's state, and then there's local. Obviously, the town of Fort Kent doesn't hold to the same vulnerability as maybe New York City would. So obviously, on where you go, it's gonna vary from that. School planning is very important. Emergency operations plans as a whole, you have to have an action plan into what you want to do. You can't just kind of be like, well, you know, there's a car accident or there's a fire, and then not really have an idea of how we're going to mitigate that. So we got to come up with plans before this actually occurs. So that's very important. And like I said, agencies that are associated with this is FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, MEMA, which is the main emergency management agency, and then AKEMA, which is the Aroostook County Emergency Management Agency. And then you have, of course, your local EMA. Now I say with the main emergency management agency, every state has their own emergency management agency. They're broken down into the federal government overlooks, and then it goes state, and then it goes local. So that's basically the gist of what needs to be understood here. And I don't think we can make it much more complicated than that. So here's FEMA's mission. Like I said, it's federal. We're looking at if it's a federal, like the federal government gets involved with a disaster. So their overall outlook on a disaster, say like what occurred with 9/11, Hurricane Katrina, big events, big disaster events, what this is going to do, how it impacts. It could even FEMA could even be utilized up in the county, up here. It depends all on the how badly the disaster is and how bad it impacts the environment, the people in which they live, and so forth. So that's more of a big disaster type agency versus your MEMA, which is your main emergency management agency. They more so focus on just the state. So that's your state level. Obviously, the state coordinates, they mitigate, they prepare, they work in response to state disasters. So the state will get involved if a disaster is too big for a county or a local jurisdiction. The state will get involved. Let's say like the flood back in Fort Kent, 08, thank you. So the big flood in 08, obviously the state of Maine had to be involved with that because alone the Aroostook County Emergency Management Agency could not basically, they didn't have the technology, they didn't have the coordination to be able to, all right, say we're just going to take care of this. They had to kind of reach out for help. and that's where the state of Maine Emergency Management Agency comes in. And then following that, we have the Aroostook County Emergency Management Agency, just countywide. So I'm not from the state of Maine, but like Aroostook County, Somerset County, Penobscot County, and there's different, every county has their own emergency management that overlooks the county as a whole versus relying on MEMA or FEMA to do it, because obviously that would cost a lot more money to have them overlook just a small, and it's not to say that we're a small county, we don't need to be looked over, it's micromanaged basically is this whole entire thing, is what it's talking about. So from these three, mitigate, prepare, respond, and recover are the primary goals for each three agencies. So I know the theme is technology for the 4th annual symposium. So I kind of wanted to relate, I wanted to take those three agencies and say, okay, what do they use? What do they use to help? What do they use to respond? What do they use to mitigate emergencies and disasters? In terms of disasters, disasters come in two ways, usually, which are either man-made or natural. So, pretty much self-explanatory. A fire would be more so man-made, because it's in a building built by man, versus like Hurricane Katrina, storms, snowstorms, etc. That would be more so of a natural disaster. So, how emergency management relates to technology within our future. I mean, the government broke it down with this quote, and I thought it was great, so I put it on this slide. Basically, we're always focused on the mission. Everything, anybody who's ever been in the military, paramilitary, whatever you're doing within that, you're always focusing on what needs to be done at hand. When I go to class, I focus on the mission that needs to be, the homework assignments due. I need to be proactive in the classroom. That is my mission at that time. With the federal government, they want to make sure they need to utilize these rules of technology to follow out their mission. So we have worldwide radios, broadcasting alert systems, interoperable communications, and MDTs, mobile data terminals. I'm going to go ahead and elaborate on most of these. So this one here is National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. They're basically alert radios that they're national. It's for a national weather service. It goes through the National Weather Service, like the little alert thing when you see a big storm's coming across your TV. This is basically what that is. So the NOAA basically it's more of a broadcasting system that lets people know, hey, there's a storm coming, be prepared for it, things that you need to do. You know, and I know this sounds all common sense. It's like, all right, yeah, we got big snowstorms coming. We need to prepare. You know, maybe we need to go out and get some extra supplies or food or what have you, because we might be stowed in for a few days. But this is a way of the government being proactive as a nation. We need to realize that they need to be proactive with us so we can make good decisions for ourselves, which is very important. MDTs. I don't know if anybody's ever been in a police cruiser, if anybody works, emergency medical service, fire department, anything like that. This is where it's going right now. Instead of going to the hospital or going to a fire call, we're writing it down on a piece of paper, we're writing a report out, everything has to be documented. So instead of being, well, we're going to just write this report down and then we submit it to the doctor, say if we're EMTs or paramedics. If we're on a run, we submit it to a doctor, or we go to a fire call, we document that, and then we submit it to the state or law enforcement if they go to any kind of call, domestic assault, motor vehicle accident, motor vehicle stop, anything like that. They have to document everything that they do. So this is where it's all going now. They got their little laptops in their cruisers or their fire trucks or their ambulances, and they're just documenting everything instead of typing it all out, instead of handwriting it out. So got the gist of that. So it's basically taking over the cellular radios or the cell phones, radios, all that stuff. So interoperable communications. This is neat because this is more of an outline. Okay, this is a plan in which how we basically statewide, they're starting to go to this plan, and it aligns the agencies up within the goals, their objectives, what they need to do, and in terms of technology and using technology, whether it be those NOAAs, the broadcasting radios, time alert systems, and the alert and warning. This basically coincides with this. People are going to use, we get all this stuff, and it all has to be planned, to be mitigated, prepared. You know, everything has got to be documented. So that's basically where those plans come into. Okay. There's challenges, obviously, with technology evolving so quickly, so rapidly. There's challenges within this. So it's just not like you go out and you fight a fire, you put the fire out, and then you go back to the fire station, or you go out and you help a little old lady up off the floor and bring her to the hospital, or put her back in bed, and then you go home. It's not like that anymore. Everything's documentation. Everything's all about technology now. Everything's evolving so quickly, and even with us, we need to be prepared. As you know, as in society nowadays, we need to be prepared. We need to be proactive. I mean, even with technology, what if we lose technology? I mean, what if we lose our mobile data terminals and that we wrote our whole report on? We need to basically be proactive in this sense, and we need to kind of figure out a happy medium, and we need to plan as a community. It's very important, and we need to work it out together. This is all very important to work and to be prepared for these disasters that could occur. Now, where it counts, obviously, it starts with you at home. Everybody's kind of like, oh, that'll never happen to me, or this will, you know, this disaster, or this will never hit us up here in Aroostook County. Well, you know, this is an eye opener, and it was to me that it already has occurred, and it will occur, and it will occur again. You know, and and the big thing is, look at what happened a couple weekends ago. You know, and we just can't get complacent. We need to always be prepared. We need to be prepared for our families, our children, our schools, our industries, our jobs. This is all very important. So, with that being said, what we can do is personal. Like I said, it all begins with you. It all begins at home. It all begins with working together to resolve the problem. Questions? I didn't go too quickly, I hope.
Questions for Bryan?
And I know it's a lot of information, okay? I know it's a lot of information to comprehend, especially if you're not really into emergency management, or you don't really, know or understand it. You know, you see the fire trucks on the road, you see the police cars, but you don't really understand what they do. And I know everybody's starting to get up on the upkeep of technology, starting to understand it, starting to get into it, but it's impacting not only the 4 panels here that were here last night and their jobs, but it's also impacting us. It's impacting public safety officials, it's impacting your school teachers, and it's just evolving very rapidly. So,
The moderators, we have a question here, Bryan, go ahead.
Do you think we rely on technology too much at this day and age?
in society, I think we do. I'll give you an example, actually. That's a great question. I went for a ride-along with a trooper probably 2-3 weekends ago. And we were up at Sear Plantation. We were in the dip, and his cell phone didn't work. He couldn't call anything in over the radio. And there were 5 people in this van, 5 men in this van, and he was by himself. And he pulled over. Now, how intimidating does that look as a trooper? So he can't call anybody. He can't, the only thing, he can document, he can write it in his computer, but I feel like how far is backup? I feel like you can't call backup really, so I mean, you know, what are you gonna do? So I think, yeah, in a way, we do rely on technology a lot, and almost, it's almost scary. And that just, the reason I brought that up is so it shoots it to home for you, because basically it's not only impacting us within the teaching jobs, the nursing jobs, but this is life or death situation. So I really do think, yes, it does, we do rely on it way too much, yes, definitely.
Thank you.
If the moderator is allowed to ask the question, then those mobile terminals, by the term mobile, I'm assuming it's cell phone, is that correct? Or is it mobile just because it's in the car?
See, yeah, you know, and that's funny, because I went to Google and I looked up the same thing. I had the same question. I was like, okay, that sounds like something that you would talk on or something. So, but yes, mobile is more so because it's in the vehicle. Yeah, you got it exactly right, David.
So if you lose the machine, you lose your data. Just to follow up on the relying on technology, the last question.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'd say, there's actually not there's not a server in this.
Right.
It's but they call it tough hooks. But yeah, essentially, if that gets run over by a vehicle tire or something, or dropped in the water or something, or this thing, I mean, yeah, essentially it's gone. Everything is gone. So yeah, once again, going back to that question, and thank you for elaborating on that. That you do lose everything, and we rely on it significantly. Yes.
Other questions, sir?
Do you know of anything locally to increase response times as far as emergency? Like as far as coalitions or boards, panels, everyone discussing how to increase response times in our rural area?
Well, I know that we're lucky up here because we have resources like Border Patrol, Customs, so we have those resources. Plus we have our municipal, our sheriffs, our state police officers. In terms of that, yeah, I don't know of any boards or panels that are really talking about it. I know some bigwig somewhere within these agencies, especially in the federal government, they're talking about how they want to basically combine everybody into one. So they want to make a cop, a fireman, and a EMT or paramedic all into one, the same guy, so he can do all the same jobs. And I think I think within that's going to increase the time of response. Hands down, that's gonna really help us. But if you really train somebody to do all three of those, yes, you can. But is somebody really prepared? Physically, emotionally, do that job? That's the kind of thing. Man is only so strong, So.
Please help me thank Bryan for the presentation.